on education. I'm so excited to introduce to you Dr. Ross Kaysen, who is the superintendent of Freehold Township District, as well as principals Eddie, I hope I get these names right. We were practicing before. Eddie Aldarelli and Jeff Huguenin, who are also principals of this district. Thank you so much for taking some time and talking to me. I really appreciate it.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to talk homework. I know you guys are wondering about homework. I know everybody, it's definitely a topic of conversation. And I feel that you have a pretty strong stance that I really am interested in. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
We've done a lot of work with homework, and we've looked at it as we have looked at with our classroom practices, and we've made our classroom practices so much better over the last 5, 10, even last couple of years with new evaluation models. Our stance is we need to do the same for homework. It's that important to the teaching and learning process, but it is often forgotten and not addressed, and it has not caught up with what we're doing in our classrooms. So we can absolutely make it better and make it more effective. We need to create assignments that make students think, that make students actively engaged, and is not just busy work.
So am I correct in thinking it might be a quality versus quantity? Would that be a correct assessment?
Yeah. In certain aspects, it's also homework traditionally is a compliance issue, right? So students are doing their homework because the teacher has assigned it, not because they understand how it connects to the broader curriculum or a real-world application. It's because they assigned this particular math page on this night, and I need to complete it so that I can get a check tomorrow morning, as opposed to what's the purpose and the objective behind this assignment.
If you ask most of our teachers, not maybe in this district, but other districts, they haven't been trained in homework. It's not any part of any college prep courses. It's not often talked about. So most teachers do what was done to them.
Okay.
So they don't really, it's an afterthought. They assign dittos and worksheets, which really don't promote learning. And if we walked into a classroom and saw students doing that, we would ask teachers, why are you doing that, and how are kids learning, and how is that helping the learning process? We need to do the same thing with homework, because they aren't thinking about that for the most part, and they can do much more effective, not more, assignments that make text good.
Yeah, let's talk about not more, because I think it's supposed to be, if I'm correct, in the presentation that you gave regarding homework, you say 10 to 20 minutes for younger ages, and then 30 minutes around, maybe an hour tops for older ages. But now I hear there's hours of homework being assigned, correct? So how does that work? What do you think about that?
That is correct. Most of the research says that kids are doing more and more homework, and with the implementation of the Common Core and what's expected, teachers...
You said it. I didn't even have to say it. Did you see that? You said Common Core.
Teachers are feeling pressure, so there is research that more and more students are doing more and more homework. We've done a lot of research, and it says, and what we put into practice, it should be 10 minutes per grade level that the students are in. So for instance, if a student's in first grade, it should be 10 minutes of homework.
Wow.
Third grade should be 30 minutes of homework. High school, again, 12th grade, 120 minutes of homework for all of the classes combined.
And we found two agencies that support that. One is the National Education Association, and the other, the National PTA, Parent Teacher Association, who believe in that policy as well, that 10 minutes per grade level is an effective amount of time. And if, along with what our assertion is, if homework is designed more effectively and used as a tool to help learning, that those guidelines can be met and will help students grow and learn.
Okay. If you could all complete this sentence. Homework is...
I think it's misunderstood.
Okay. It needs to be more of the conversation.
I think that people don't understand the reason for it, and many teachers do it for compliance. And compliance doesn't make learning. Compliance doesn't teach time management. So if they understand the purpose of homework, and that it is really to support learning in a meaningful way, I think it would change our practices. Okay.
Homework is?
Effective when done correctly. I think that when teachers take the time that they normally would during the school day to develop an effective lesson that's differentiated, that's either based on some aspect of maybe pre-learning, right? Concepts that are going to be taught in in a future unit. I think when it's administered that way, it's highly effective practices.
Okay. Homework is?
An underutilized tool to help students learn.
No fair, you had more time.
Oh, the bird.
You had more time.
Through our presentation and the work looking into this, we found that there are 4 purposes for homework that really have an impact on helping students learn, that we've expanded on in our presentations. And so one of those examples is we found there's an over-reliance on practice, that teachers believe they're assigning homework so that students can practice. But it's open-ended, and it's often going back to that example that we experienced, which is tonight for homework you're going to complete numbers 1 through 50 odd only, and tomorrow it'll be number 2 through 50 even only. And through that, you get some information as a teacher as to how successfully the students are completing it. But we know there are other ways. You could assign that practice and only give 3 problems, but ask the students to explain their thinking and write it out. As a teacher, I get a lot more information, and I can see where there may be a mistake or where they're off the path in terms of the process that they need to be following. So in a much more efficient, compact amount of time, which we know helps moms and dads around the table for homework, the teacher gets the same amount of information, and it can then help them the next day instructionally in the classroom.
Now, are you 3 like the 3 merry men that are kind of on your own and, you know, the rogue, the rogue principal and superintendent, or is there a lot of support for this theory?
We talk about it a lot as superintendents, and it's a challenging issue to tackle because it brings up so many emotions. And parents expect homework. They expect the homework that they did that was used to them. So when you start changing those practices, it can become a challenge. And teachers also have deep-rooted beliefs in homework. And some of them truly believe in the compliance issue, and that will teach time management. Some of them, you know, want to try to promote creativity. So for a reading assignment, they'll have students create a diorama. And for those kids that like to create dioramas, that might be a good assignment, although I'm not sure it promotes reading comprehension. But for other students, and a boy like myself that hated art, that was a torturous assignment. So I think to think about different types of, as we do in the classroom, different types of learners, different types of way of showing that you're showing, it can be done very differently. So I think it's an important issue and people want to tackle it, but I think they shy away from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's shocking when we say, you know.
It is, actually. I was excited to talk to you guys because when I read, I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, let's start this conversation because I hear so much on the other side.
Yeah, and I don't think that, you know, that we would advocate the total absence of homework, but I think that what you need to consider is the type of homework that you're doing, and if it's not based on some of the research that we looked at, then you need to err in the side of not assigning it, I think, and develop something a little bit more meaningful.
It was interesting, we were working with some teachers just a couple weeks ago, and a music teacher who sees kids sporadically was talking about her homework and saying the difficulty of having kids do it because they don't see her over long periods of time. And I think she was taken back a little bit when Eddie told her, you know, maybe your homework assignments aren't that meaningful to the kids, or maybe they're not that relevant, so maybe don't assign it. And she said, you're giving me permission not to assign homework, and we said, absolutely, unless it's meaningful and making a difference in learning, we don't think you should assign it.
Initially, when we thought of this as a topic, I was unsure of the level of interest. But as with each group that we present to, you realize that homework affects every member of a school district, every member of the school community, from the students to the parents, and that image that we have of them around the table at night, to the teachers who are assigning it based on whatever they know to be homework that they receive, to administrators who deal with those calls from parents about the struggles at night, to the Board of Education. So it's from top to bottom, everyone is included in the topic. And we mentioned earlier, it's sometimes an afterthought. Homework is just something that happens, but it really impacts everyone and can be used more effectively.
the name itself, like even when you say homework, it's almost an immediate in your head, like a negative connotation,
Yeah.
right? You're just thinking about it, not only from a school perspective, but also from a work perspective, right? So in real life, there are certain things that we can't tend to during the regular day, and we take it home for homework, a little homework to practice for the next day. And I think that we need to kind of flip that particular piece so that the work that we're doing at home is not only meaningful, but will assist you in your learning for future units. Yeah.
And we often start our presentations with, what's the first word that pops in your head when you hear the word homework? And depending if it's a parent, a first-year teacher, but again, most of those connotations are very negative. So we've tried to even change the words and use it home learning or home practice, because if you start talking about it as learning and practice, some of those assignments, which I think are the ones that are my pet peeves that really don't promote learning, actually go away. And we do that in our classrooms, and I think that's how I became excited and really interested in the topic of homework. When I first became a principal, I saw practices in my school that were done because they were traditional. They were traditional year after year after year, but they really maybe took a lot of time, but did not promote much learning. And those were, again, difficult to tackle because people were used to them, and I even heard from parents, my kid was waiting to get to third grade to build this great cake, but it really didn't do much for learning. Homework's even more challenging, and our principals, I think, like the support that we said we have to do different, we have to do better, and feel that they are empowered now to work with teachers for that. But often it is a piece that is not discussed in a district because it is such a critical topic that evokes emotions like politics and religion.
I like that you say empowered. Is that how you feel when you start the conversation? Do you feel empowered?
I think I think the teachers do feel empowered. I think that they are saying, wow, I never really thought about that way, and I don't have to assign more. I don't really even have to change my practices. I can actually work smarter, but not harder, because what we want with homework is for information to get stored into long-term memory. And to do that, students have to go home and summarize their learning and ask questions. So instead of filling out worksheets or doing large projects, all they have to do is summarize their learning and ask questions what comes next.